When you think of Ferraris, you think of two-door coupes. But this Ferrari you're looking at here is made for 4 passengers. The 612 Scaglietti. That's 6 liters, 12 cylinders, and named after Sergio Scaglietti, who founded the Carrozzeria Scaglietti coach building company, which was active in the 1950s before being taken over by Enzo Ferrari. The Ferrari 612 Scaglietti is a 2+2 coupe and successor to the Ferrari 456. Production ran from 2004 to 2010 until it was replaced by the Ferrari FF in 2011. With that, I welcome you to another episode of Imperial Diecast, and today I want to review this model car here, which is a scale 1/18 Ferrari 612 Scaglietti Red China Edition made by Hot Wheels Elite. Before we begin, I thought I'd give a quick little review on the box this car comes in. What I like about it is the fact that even though it's a Hot Wheels Elite, it is shipped in one of those boxes that has windows, which means that if you do not have a display case at home, you can still display this model car in the box and everyone will be able to take a look at it. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of those model car boxes that are completely closed. The car comes with a base. You have the Ferrari logo on the left, the Hot Wheels Elite logo on the right, and in the middle it says Ferrari 15,000 red miles China, limited edition 3,153, off up to 6,120. Up here it says limited edition, which is pretty much what every Hot Wheels Elite box says. And down here we have the name of the car, 612 Scaglietti, Hot Wheels Elite, and the Ferrari branding. The car is attached to its base on these 4 screws, and I gotta tell you, these were a nightmare to remove. I mean, they were like fastened so tightly. In such a situation, you just need a lot of patience and the right screwdriver, and you gotta take it very slowly. Because the last thing you want to do is slip. And you gotta admit, this is one of the best looking boxes that Hot Wheels Elite has made for any of their Ferraris. I mean, look at that. You get a sense of real atmosphere here because the background of the box is designed to look like a section of the Great Wall of China. And over here at the back we have 3 pictures of the car in real life instead of the model. Over here we have a picture of the 2 cars posing in front of the victory line. I believe this was in Shanghai or Beijing, I'm not sure. But that's basically where the race ended. In the middle we have the picture of the exact same car as this one, because the other car had a silver body and a red front, which is in fact pictured right here. And our car is right there. So that's the box, and now let's move on to the review of the car itself. This is actually one of the cheaper Hot Wheels Elites out there. Originally, this car retailed for more or less the same price as all the other Hot Wheels Elites did, which is $80. But over the past couple of years, what has happened is that as supply and demand changes, the prices of these models fluctuate wildly. Some much sought after Hot Wheels Elite models, such as the red Ferrari 458 Italia or the red Ferrari LaFerrari, have skyrocketed to $180, while other Hot Wheels Elite Ferraris have actually depreciated a little bit in price. One of them being the 612 Scaglietti, and the other being the 599 GTB Pan American, as well as the 458 Spider. The reason why I purchased this model is because it has a lot of history to it. A couple months ago I uploaded a video on my channel which shows a 7-minute clip which features an event called the 15,000 Red Miles in China. This was an event that took place in the year 2005 and involved two Ferrari 612 Scagliettis. It was a special grand touring event which was planned by Ferrari and the Chinese government and kicked off on the 29th of August 2005. Two 612 Scagliettis started from Shanghai, passed through 19 provincial-level administrative regions all around China, and covered 24,000 kilometers in 2 months, accomplishing the magnificent feat of traveling around China. Ferrari used this as an opportunity to show off the 612 Scaglietti's Grand Tourer capabilities. No other constructor had ever undertaken such a daunting task. The route covered an enormous range of very different terrains and challenges. The cars endured extremes of cold and heat, incredibly tough road conditions, and environmental obstacles of all kinds. The two 612 Scagliettis first headed north and then east towards Manchuria. After this they drove southwest to Beijing and then along the Great Wall as far as Lanzhou. From there they covered over 3,000 kilometers at an altitude of more than 4,000 meters above sea level as far as Lhasa in Tibet, before heading back west through the Gobi Desert to the ancient city of Kashgar, which was the site of Marco Polo's famous silk market. After a further dash through the desert, the two 612 Scagliettis drove on to Urumqi and then down through the tropical part of the country to Guangzhou, which is more familiar to us as Canton. From there they continued on through the most modern and western part of China back to Shanghai after a round trip of 15,000 miles, hence earning this title and completing their tour of China in around 45 days. The two 612 Scagliettis were in complementary colors. One is red with a silver bonnet, and the other is silver with a red bonnet. They were modified only minimally. They had larger fuel tanks with petrol filters that could be easily accessed for cleaning purposes, underbody protectors, and slightly higher suspension to cope with the more challenging terrain. Their headlights were protected by a metal grille, and some of the air intakes were modified to allow them to traverse waterlogged areas in safety. In every other respect, however, the cars were normal production models with a 540 horsepower V12 engine and a maximum torque of 588 Nm, dry sump lubrication, a 6-speed gearbox, and a transaxle transmission. Here's a look at the front of the vehicle. You can see that we have a URL at the very bottom which says ferrariworld.com, and atop that we have a metal grille. This grille goes all the way through and is decorated by the prancing horse made out of etched metal, rather than just being a plastic piece. We have air intakes on both sides, and these also have grills. As you can see, these grills are perforated. Moving further up, let's take a closer look at these headlights. The xenon headlamps are covered by a protective metal grille, and is perforated as well. So the headlights are just partially covered. And while some may find this off-putting, I think the reason is a genuine one. They did this to basically protect the headlights from the dust of the Gobi Desert. We have a giant Ferrari logo right up here, some Chinese lettering, the Pirelli logo and the Shell logo at the sides over here. And the Ferrari emblem itself is printed on. Now let's move on to the best part about the hood, the Chinese dragon. This here is a very impressive dragon. I mean, just look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? Right down to the individual scales, the detailing here is magnificent. Hot Wheels Elite managed to create this in a very satisfactory manner. Moving on to the car's side profile, you'll notice that this car has giant Scuderia shields as fender badges. So they aren't really a badge, but more part of the livery. The doors bear the branding of the special event, which is the 15,000 Red Miles of China. And on the right side, you can see the companies that sponsored this event, such as Shell, Alcoa, Pirelli, Fiat, Puma, etc. Up here we have a Zinyu watch and clock advertising livery, and a friendly reminder of the V12 naturally aspirated engine on the fender. And here again we can see that it says 612 Scaglietti. The blinker is a separate piece made out of plastic, instead of just being painted on, which is good. And now let's take a closer look at the rims. These are 19-inch 5-spoke aluminum alloy rims. We have cross-drilled brake rotors and black Ferrari calipers, with the rotors moving while the caliper remains stationary, just as it's supposed to be. You can see the Cavallino Rampante emblazoned on the center, surrounded by 5 lug nuts. Unfortunately, the door handles aren't separate pieces. However, a nice extra detail here is this metal keyhole. Being a Hot Wheels Elite, you can see that it comes with semi-raised windows. These are actually made out of a very thin plastic, so I'm not really happy with their quality. But they get the job done. Moving over to the back of the vehicle, you can see the Italian flag on the left and the Chinese flag on the right as a symbol of friendship for this special event. What's also quite interesting here is that we have a European-Italian license plate with Modena as the city, but in addition to that we have a Chinese license plate underneath it, which makes perfect sense because this car was traveling in China, so it needed a Chinese registration number. You can see the exhausts on either side, Pirelli logos, and you'll also realize that this car has parking sensors. Moving further up to the taillights. These don't look very special, but they're done in a satisfactory manner, I think. And the Ferrari emblem at the back is also a metal piece rather than just being painted on, so that is cool. We have some Chinese lettering up here. And further up we have the same logo as on the doors. Another Ferrari logo here, also made out of etched metal and slightly raised. And now let's take a look at the trunk. This trunk is not particularly large. However, you can see that it has felt inside, which is standard issue for Hot Wheels Elite cars. There you go. You have your 2 hinges over here, and otherwise there's nothing else. Now let's take a look at the engine. The engine is a 5.7-liter naturally aspirated V12 with 540 horsepower with a top speed of 320 km per hour and 0 to 100 in 4.3 seconds, which is impressive for a vehicle carrying 4 people. I think the engine is done in a decent fashion. Keep in mind this is a Hot Wheels Elite, so you can expect some quality. You can see the windshield wiper fluid at the back. At least I think that's what it is. Some other bits and bobs here and there. You have the Ferrari logo on the airboxes. The engine blocks themselves are painted in a very nice red. You can see 6 cylinders on each side, which is why this is a V12. Prancing horse in the middle, and silver lines running all the way to the back. Not much depth though. I mean, it does look like one giant plastic piece to me, or at least 2 or 3, but I think I'm happy with it. Could have been done maybe a little bit more detailed because it's a Hot Wheels Elite, but no real complaints here. Looking at the underside of the hood, you can see that it has a kind of a heat shield, and this material here is actually made out of a type of matte felt, which feels nice, but the downside of the hood is the fact that it's actually quite hard to get open. Let me show you exactly what I mean. If I close the hood like this, you can see that it is pretty seamless. So if you want to get this hood open, there is no button or any mechanism underneath to help you do so. You'd actually need quite large fingernails or any kind of like knife or something like that, which you would then put here in this corner and then carefully lift up the hood. Now let's take a look at the interior. Hot Wheels Elite released both versions of this car, the red and the silver one. Unfortunately, the silver one only had a black interior, so that's the reason, or one of the reasons why I bought the red one, because it comes with this leather and aluminum 2-tone interior. You'll immediately notice the floor mats in the footwell. The vents are done nicely. dual zone climate control. We have a Bose sound system at the back. We have 4 seat belts, and all of them are made out of cloth and have etched metal belt buckles. You'll also notice that the headrests have Ferrari logos. You got a handbrake over there, as well as rear quarter glass, and a rear view mirror on the top. Over here at the driver's side, we have 3-spoke rack and pinion steering wheel with the Ferrari logo and aluminum paddle shifters. Got your headlight controls right next to it. The instrument panel is split between an analog tachometer and speedometer and an LCD display for engine functions and fuel. We have drilled aluminum pedals in the footwell. And here's what the engine sounds like. So, all things considered, is this car worth the money? Well, let me point you out to the biggest flaw that this car has, which is, first of all, it's a heavy car. We have a 2+2 Ferrari here, one of the larger ones, and so the diecast model itself is also very heavy, which is the reason why I actually cannot show you the underside of the car, because I don't want to put it on its head and then have something fall off. Which leads me to point 2, and that is plastic door hinges. What the hell was Hot Wheels Elite thinking when they equipped such a heavy die-cast metal car with plastic door hinges? They're one of the flimsiest that I've seen, and guess what happened? All 2 of them broke off. So I had to get super glue and try and glue those hinges back together, which is a nightmare, let me tell you that, because you cannot take this car apart, or at least it's very hard to do so, because even if you unscrew the bottom, only the back part will come off, but the front part will somehow remain stuck, probably because of the steering. And otherwise, if you do not get this car off, it's extremely hard to get those hinges from the inside of the car to the outside so that you can then glue it with the hinge that's on the door. And the next problem is the fact that the hinge that connects to the door itself sits in a kind of a pocket, which makes the door shake around, so I'd have to apply some super glue to that as well, to prevent the doors from wobbling. The bottom line is that I might have received a defective model, but even on an undamaged model in mint condition, these doors are still very flimsy and is one of the easiest things to break in this car. Thankfully, I got this car for pretty cheap. I paid 52 euros, more or less, to get it shipped. But I've seen these cars go all the way up to 70, 80, or even 90, and I would definitely not recommend you buy it, especially because of the plastic hinges at that price. If you can get it for cheap, go for it, but keep this in mind. Because at the end of the day, even the most inexpensive budget manufacturers like Burago, Maisto, or Motormax equip their model cars with solid metal hinges that do not break that easily. So I hope you guys liked this review of the Scale 118 Ferrari 612 Scaglietti Red China Edition by Hot Wheels Elite. And with that, this is Imperial Diecast signing out.